Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Fermented, where I explore recipes and concoctions of fermented food. If you've missed my previous recipes like natto, I will put the playlist above and down below. So today I'm going to be tackling sourdough chocolate cake. Sourdough? Chocolate cake? Together? Right? So that's why I'm going to be tackling it today. So I want to talk a little bit about sourdough. It seems a little bit mysterious, but it really isn't. But this is basically what people used before we had commercial active dry yeast that comes in a little sachet that you tear and you know, blah, blah, and you get bread. Well, what sourdough is the OG yeast. And basically what we do is you take flour and you combine it with flour and you culture the yeast, or you grow the yeast. The yeast is actually naturally occurring. It's actually in the flour already. So following sourdough recipes can be a little bit confusing sometimes because it'll say this much starter that's been fed or ripe or unfed. So there's a lot of words that you're just like, I'm not sure what state my sourdough is in. But the recipes that I found that have been most clear and easy to follow are King Arthur flour recipes, and I'll put a link down below. And what I like is that they clearly say discard starter, which means the starter that you discard when you are about to feed your starter. So enough background about sourdough. Let's go ahead and start making this cake. Now I've done a little preparation beforehand. In this bowl I have 1 cup of discarded sourdough starter, and I combine that with 2 cups of flour and 1 cup of milk. Stir that all together, kind of made a shaggy dough, and I let this rest for 2 to 3 hours. Why are we doing this? The reason why we're doing this is that we're allowing that 1 cup of starter to start eating the flour and milk in there and to start growing and to get more sour. Because this sourdough is going to react with the baking soda that we're going to add, and that's what's going to give us the lift in our cake. I forgot my mixer. Be right back. La 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 la. All right, got the mixer. Now, in a separate bowl, we're going to combine 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, 1 cup of oil, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda, 3/4 cup of cocoa powder. So we're going to beat this up until everything is well blended. The recipe says that this will be a little bit grainy. Let's scrape down the sides a little bit here. Okay. Now we're going to add quality control. All right, we're gonna add 2 eggs, but we're gonna add them in 1 at a time, mixing in between. Gently combine the chocolate mixture with the starter mix until smooth. And it says this will be a gloopy affair in the beginning, but it will combine after a little bit of coaxing. Wow. That's crazy. It's like bread dough. Whoa. Look at that. It looks almost like raw babka or something. It's delicious. So this recipe calls for a 9 by 13 pan, but I want to make a double layer cake. So I've got 2 8-inch round pans that I have sprayed and lined with parchment paper on the bottom. And we're going to divide this batter into both of these pans. Let's try to do this evenly as possible. Look at that batter, it's amazing. Pop that into 350-degree oven and bake for 30 to 40 minutes until it's springy in the middle and a toothpick comes out clean. Alrighty, so I'm back. My cakes have baked and they took about 40 minutes to bake just as instructed. Pulled it out, allowed it to cool completely on a rack. And while my cakes were cooling, I made my favorite chocolate buttercream frosting, which I actually got from Smitten Kitchen. I will put the link to the original recipe down below. She calls it her I Want Chocolate Cake Frosting, and I love it. It comes together super fast because you make it in a food processor. And what you do is you add 2 sticks of room temperature butter to your food processor. and 3 cups of powdered sugar, and 4 ounces of melted unsweetened chocolate. Make sure your chocolate has cooled down a little bit before you add it. Add a pinch of salt and 2 tablespoons of milk or cream. And then you just whiz it up in the food processor till you get beautiful buttercream. I forgot to put my vanilla, so I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla to here. So the original King Arthur recipe for this cake included a coffee flavored icing. And because the cake was more like a sheet cake, you would pour the warm icing on top. But since I opted to do a 2-layer round cake, I'm going to use buttercream rather than doing that pourable icing. This cake mounded a little bit at the top, so I took my serrated knife and just shaved a little bit off the top so the cakes would sit nicely. Here we are, my nicely cooled cake. And around the edge of my cake, I've tucked in some wax paper so that when I frost, I don't have to worry about my cake stand getting dirty. Put a generous amount of that right there. Oh, that's so satisfying. I love that. Take an offset spatula and smear this to the edge. We put our second layer right on top. Oh yes, that's going to be beautiful. And then frost the whole cake. Now, I just mentioned that I like making cakes, but I don't really make special occasion cakes all that much. I am a mama to 2 very active boys, and I have lots of things to do, so I can't be bothered with making kind of fussy cakes. So I don't do crumb coats, and although I did do a wicked crumb coat on my mirror glaze cake, that was pretty amazing. I will put a link to that video in case you're curious, or you just want to see me suffer. I certainly suffered in that recipe. All right, here's my beautiful cake. Isn't it so stinking cute? I love this type of frosting, this kind of old-timey, old-fashioned, soupy frosting, super easy, super cute. Now we're gonna remove the wax paper to reveal a clean cake stand. That's so satisfying. I believe I learned that from Martha, good old Martha. Do you ever have the urge to just, when you see cakes like this that are beautifully made, to just destroy it or stick your face in it or just smush it? I do. And that's kind of what I want to do to this cake, but let's not do that. Let's go ahead and taste it instead, okay? All right, here we go. Let's slice it nicely. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Oh yes, oh yes. Oh, beautiful. All right, the time has arrived. It is finally time to eat the sourdough chocolate cake. And it turned out beautifully. I'm so happy about it. So pleased. I'm so pleased that I decided to do the double layer rather than a sheet cake. Sheet cakes are fine and they're delicious, but there's something that's so celebratory about a double-decker cake that I just love. Okay, let's eat this. Look how big this slice of cake is. Da, 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 da. Doesn't mean I'm gonna eat the whole thing. Okay. All right, here we go. Itadakimasu. Fantastic. Utterly delicious, smashing chocolate cake. The cake has a beautiful, soft, tender crumb, and that is based on the reaction of the sourdough reacting with the baking soda. So while it is fluffy and tender and soft, it still remains quite moist. It's absolutely lovely. There's a good amount of chocolate flavor in there, but not overpoweringly so. Sweet and cake-like, but not fudgy or dense. It's not brownie-like at all, just a delicious, like chocolate sheet cake. This lovely buttercream frosting on top, which gives it additional richness to the cup of oil that's in there. And some extra sweetness and a touch of chocolatey flavor and some vanilla in there that's just perfect. And in case you're wondering, because we use sourdough in this, does this taste tangy or sour at all, or cheesy? No, not at all. There's no sourness, no tanginess, no nothing. This actually reminds me a lot of my favorite chocolate cake recipe, put the link down below, which is actually vegan and uses vinegar and baking soda together to create a beautiful chocolate cake. This actually tastes very, very similar to that cake recipe, but instead of vinegar, we're using sourdough. And the sourdough, like the vinegar, you don't taste at all. So not only is this an excellent recipe, it's a really great way to use up your surplus sourdough starter that you would be otherwise putting in the compost. You can make yourself a cake. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope you guys learned something. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything you'd like to see in this fermentation series, or if there are any recipes you'd like me to taste test. Be sure to share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media, subscribe, like, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye! Cake.